Hi, my name is Johan, and today I'm going to speak about pain as a teacher, and I'm going to speak about our relationship with pain. In this video, I'm going to cover a few simple tips and tricks you can use for figuring out what physical stimulus and things in your environment might be causing you this pain and discomfort, and some of the reasons you might not want to be blocking out that pain and discomfort, as well as a couple of fun stories from my own life at the end about my own health and wellness struggle. First, we're going to cover what is pain. Pain is a noxious or unpleasant stimulus. Itching, scratching, burning, pricking, those sorts of sensations. It is often associated with physical damage, and the body very often recognizes pain as a stimulus indicating that there is some kind of physical damage occurring. So we see that pain is really a feedback mechanism that the body uses to determine which actions are beneficial and which actions are harming to itself. Now, most people think of pain as a problem, a distraction, something that is in the way of what they're trying to do. Somebody wakes up on a Monday morning with a headache and thinks, how unfortunate, I've now got a headache, and they take another headache pill. Instead of recognizing that that headache is an expression of some kind of accumulative or otherwise type of harm that is actually taking place, and instead of listening to that feedback mechanism, they are blocking it out. Pain is not random. It doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is a feedback system that the body is using to inform you that there is a problem. Now, what do most people do when they get a headache? They take a pain pill. When they get indigestion, they take an acid reflux powder. They have constipation, they take a pill. They have some other kind of problem, they take an immediate symptomatic cure. Now, there's nothing wrong with a symptomatic cure per se, but very much like if you ignore your phone's low battery signal, you shouldn't be surprised when your phone suddenly dies on you. The very same with your body. If you ignore, let's say, constant digestive aches or constant migraines or headaches or other such pain signal, and you keep blocking it out, you also shouldn't be surprised when the system fails eventually and gives in. And what very often starts as a small discomfort, a rash here and there, a mild headache, eventually develops into a chronic illness of some sort because the person has simply blocked out the signal. And signal blocking really is the primary way that most people deal with physical discomfort, and hopefully in this video I can convince you that there's a better way. Now, I'm sure regardless of who's watching this, most of you know somebody who cannot possibly get through a workday without a cup or 5 of coffee. I'm sure many of you know somebody who would not be able to survive more than a month without a pack of headache pills. And I'm sure many of you know someone or personally require constant use of certain skincare products in order to maintain a rash-free or otherwise blemishless skin. I will wager that 90% of my viewers are at least using some method of pain blocking on a regular basis, if not much more. And they're not necessarily totally bad, as I mentioned before. However, you have to consider that if most of the pain signals that people experience are being blocked, how much information is being missed? If pain is being experienced, let's say in the context of somebody who breaks their arm, I don't have any problem with them taking morphine or some other pain blocking agent in the short term to prevent suffering. It's just mercy. However, if somebody has a chronic pain problem that has some kind of underlying variable, then blocking out that pain signal constantly is only going to lead to a worsening of that variable. So what we really come to is an understanding that pain in fact acts as a teacher, that pain comes to teach us about our bodies. It comes to teach us about our interactions with the world. And when you view pain as a teacher as opposed to a nuisance, you will often get a tremendous benefit and enrichment of your own experience. Now, the first step to learning from the pain teacher is to listen, to pay attention to the signals that are coming through and not blocking those signals as much as possible. Let's start with an example to make it easier to explain. Let us say you wake up Monday through Friday and you're always foggy and lethargic in the morning, but by around 10 or 11 o'clock you manage to recover and you feel great otherwise the rest of the day. Now, if you've been diligent and you keep a consumption journal, which I recommend, which is basically just a journal containing everything that you put in your mouth, on your skin, or enters your body in any way. So aerosol sprays, deodorants, foods, water, drinks, etc. Skincare products, the like. The reason that it needs to be quite extensive is because symptoms in certain places are not always obviously linked to inputs from different places. For example, a certain skincare cream might create nausea or other strange symptoms that might be associated with a digestive issue. And linking those two will be very difficult if you don't have the information available. So once you've got your consumption journal, you've noted that 5 times per week you have these exact symptoms. Always try to figure out precisely how it's making you feel. Am I foggy? Do I feel anxious? The more that you listen, the more that you can precisely identify what stimulus you are feeling will make solving the problems later on much easier. Now, once you've listened and gathered information, you know now 5 times per week I have this weird experience when I wake up in the morning. Now we examine the consumption journal. Now, with the consumption journal, it's good to keep your symptoms tracked with that because you will start to notice patterns. Now, let's say in this example, the person in question every evening before bed has a cup of tea and a homemade biscuit. And this nightly ritual happens Sunday through Thursday night. If you've done your consumption journal, you will automatically notice that there's a discrepancy. On the weekends, when you're not doing this nightly ritual, you don't have the symptoms the next morning, and on the weekdays, you do. The first step would then be to eliminate the possible offending variables. So the cup of tea and the biscuit need to go, at least until you feel better. Let's say after 2 weeks you feel perfectly fine, you wake up, never have an issue. Now we start reintroducing. We bring the tea back, but we leave the biscuit out. Let's say the symptoms return the next morning. Interesting. Now you know it may be the tea, so you eliminate and you wait until all the symptoms subside. And then you test again. This time you test the homemade biscuit. Let's say there's no symptoms. In fact, after a week of eating a biscuit every night, there are no symptoms. Well, now you know it's the tea. So what we would do is find a replacement. Find a different tea. Perhaps it is the brand. Perhaps it is the kind of tea. Perhaps it is the fact that it contains caffeine. Perhaps a chamomile tea would serve you better. There are often alternative options to the things that we do that don't cause pain. Now, let's say, for example, it's the caffeine. This person is particularly sensitive to caffeine, and that bit of black tea every evening was providing enough caffeine to disrupt the sleep. We replaced that caffeinated beverage with a chamomile, jasmine, or other uncaffeinated tea, and all of a sudden the symptoms resolve. So in this very simple process of paying attention, eliminating, and replacing, you can very quickly learn from the pain teacher and get yourself out of your own pain. For me personally, the pain teacher came to me at a very young age. Right out of the hospital, I kept my parents awake perpetually with something that's referred to as colic. It's really just a catch-all term for gastrointestinal distress in infants. And my parents had to sleep in schedules because I had to be carried around and kept moving and rocking constantly in order to keep me asleep. And basically the discomfort continued until I was about 25, and I remember very clearly white knuckling it, sitting on the porcelain throne at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat, wondering if there was any purpose to all this discomfort. And I can tell you that 3 years later, there in fact is. I'm now at a place where, though I still occasionally have bouts of gastrointestinal distress, and yesterday and today being some of them, on most days I don't. And I've actually learned so much from the pain teacher that I'm able to eat quite a comprehensive diet. I have many options on the food list. I have dessert options now. And I'm able to, eat quite a complete diet and live relatively unscathed. However, just 3 years ago, I had to go fully carnivore and basically couldn't eat anything but meat for about 13 months. And this was because I didn't listen to the pain teacher carefully enough. I didn't pay enough attention to the offending variables and make the changes required. Remember, the longer that you leave the check engine light unchecked, the worse your engine's going to be when you finally lift up the hood. So instead of ending up stuck on the side of the road without any battery power and a broken engine, listen to the pain teacher today. Learn from the pain teacher so that you can improve, so that you can learn what's right and wrong for you and how you should live your life so that you as an individual and as a person can thrive. It is important, finally, that I really emphasize not giving up. It can be frustrating, and as I've mentioned, I've been dealing with a lot of physical pain and discomfort for many, many years. And even when I was carnivore, for example, I still had bouts of extreme gastrointestinal and otherwise distress. In fact, one night I even defecated in the bed as a result of a bout of gastrointestinal, let's say, explosiveness. It's not easy, and often figuring it out and getting back on the right path for you is going to be challenging. However, I can tell you that years later, having much better health, having a much more complete lived experience, I can say that it is worth it, and that the road of blocking pain and hiding from your discomfort and suffering will only propagate it. Don't settle for less, work for better. Thank you for watching.